Ready? Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're continuing Sublunaris. Woo. Uh, let's do water surface breaching. That means we should be able to go above water and then underwater. Fun times. Now, this means I actually need to strip out a lot of this stuff out of the sandbox. Or we keep the sandbox the way it is and we just set up a new level. Let's call this, what are we calling this? This is prologue level. Let's call it far side. Okay, so we need H terrain, some terrain 3D. Okay. That's reassuring. Huh. Storage. I think we need to save this. Because if we don't, it's going to take forever to load. So let's do terrain data. Far side. And then maybe texture list as well. Okay. So now that's saved. Pop the player. Environment node. Give it a new environment. Background's going to be a sky. That sky is going to be procedural, physical. I guess physical. Okay, we got terrain. And then we need some texture data on the terrain. Okay, I'm sure we're not supposed to be editing that directly. Paint color, paint roughness. Hold on a sec. It has been a while since we downloaded this. Terrain 3D 0.83 alpha. 0.92. Okay. Well, let's hope it doesn't break too much stuff. "13 files in conflict and won't be installed." Okay, well, how are we supposed to update this? Ignore asset root. Okay. This tells me that we should do it like this. Then go into add-ons, delete terrain 3D. Okay. I don't know if this is really how we're supposed to be updating our stuff. But let's see. Save, sure. This may or may not corrupt our level, but delete this. Open the project back up. Okay. And then terrain 3D. I guess we gotta re-download it. And then one conflict. What? What are you conflicting with? Demo? Man. I don't need no demo. Can we not? Go away. Okay. Some extensions need the editor to restart. Oh boy. That's a lot of failures. Interesting. Zero 092. Alrighty. Maybe we need to restart the level again. It's complaining. Storage resource is not saved as binary resource. Click. Oh, okay. So that's. Oh, fascinating. Right, they've added prop painting. Gotcha. Okay, let's make sure we save it as a res. Terrain data, far side, storage. Save as res. And I guess we'll also do for assets. And it's got to be res instead of T-res because T-res I think is human readable. So it's got a bunch of spaces, tabs, and formatting that's meant to be easy to comprehend as a human. Okay, what are you complaining now? Nothing. Not complaining about anything. Storage resource not saved as binary. Storage. Save as. Res file. To update this message, deselect and reselect terrain 3D in the scene panel. Well, hold on a second. Did I not do this? Huh. Okay. We'll stay here. Actually, it does have a name, so maybe that's the issue. Maybe I should have restarted the level after I did this the first time. There we go. Ah, and the error went away. Beautiful. All right. So, what do we want to do now? Texture, right? Create holes. Paint navigatable area. That's really cool. Instance meshes. Add region. Remove region. Auto shader. Interesting. Paint color. Okay, what are we missing here? Bake array mesh. Bake occluder 3D. Setup navigation. Pack textures. Ah, okay. We got a panel right down here. So let's add a texture. And then we have our sand we've already made before. Texture packs. Nice. And then detailing is really cool. Gives it a nice random look. Love it. Okay, that's the base texture. It looks like we don't really have to do much of anything else. Raise. And then we can choose the brush with which to raise. And it looks like they've been adding stuff. I'm hoping that we can add our own. Okay. So if we want to lower it, we have to do a different tool. Oh man, this looks pretty cool. Okay. Take a look at the environment. We know that when we are above water, I think we still want to have a little bit of fog. Right. The only downside of having fog is that it affects everything, sky included. Okay. Let's set up water. Okay, we need to set up water. We're going to do a mesh instance. We're going to give it a quad mesh, I believe. And what do you think? Set the 0, 0 location to be the water level. Although that would be kind of annoying because then we'd have to basically make the entire world be lowered. Anytime we expand the world, we'll have to spend a whole bunch of time lowering the whole world. So maybe we're gonna do like this. Okay. This thing wants to be sideways. Okay, that's fine. Hopefully we'll be okay. 90 degrees. All right. Just gonna send a message. Looks like we need to do -90. Okay. That's the size of 10 by 10. Now, how we're gonna handle this? This is the water surface. What I feel like we might have to do is make it follow the position of the player. We may or may not also have to use a multi-mesh instance to make it really large. Because that's quite a bit. Okay, let's give it a shader material. This is water after all. It's gonna have to behave like water. I'm gonna make a visual shader, and this would be stored into shaders. Okay. Call it water surface. And let's start by making it double-sided. Okay. Next, we need to be able to see above and below the water. So I'm going to take the screen, which interesting enough is actually coming from here. We're going to feed it into the albedo. Okay, and that basically causes us to render what is behind and in front of the screen. I think alpha would have to be connected as well. There we go. Okay, now we're going to blend it. Let's do a color constant. We're going to do mix. Colors RGB. Maybe not like that. Blend screen. Right. We can play around with different algorithm approaches. Overlay. Does the order matter? It might. Okay, let's work with the base color for the time being. Okay. Let's add some waves, shall we? This would have to be done in the vertex shader, and we need a Voronoi texture generator. Okay. Is this it? Actually, let's pull this up here. Fascinating. Ah, that's for placing additional elements. It's not quite the result I want. This is much more like it. Now, is it tileable? Maybe. It sort of kind of looks like it is. Save image as. I'm going to save this. Oh. So we're going to save it, and then we're going to reload. Let's see if it generates a different one. think it should. You know, just for good measure. Let's do another one. Nice. All right. 3 textures. It's more than enough. Let's get texture 2D. So we would like to offset the water vertices up and down. But this means that we need to have quite a few subdivisions. Okay. Yeah. This might not be enough. And then the higher we go, the less performance we're going to have. So let's stick to this. I think the proper way to do this would be to use voxels. And then the further the voxels are away from the camera, the less detailed they are supposed to be. We haven't discovered how to do that yet. Okay, so we'll take vertex data. This is the coordinate of each point in space. We're going to add vector 3. The result goes here. Now, what are we adding? We are adding vector 3 compose. So we're going to be making a vector 3 value. And we're only going to be using the texture. Black is any pixel that is black is 0, any pixel that is white is 1. We're going to be adding it on the y-axis. And that technically should already do something. Now, it could very well be that, well, I think the whole texture is actually being stretched across the entire image. So we need to augment the UVs. UVs. Okay. We're going to multiply the UVs. Let's make sure it's a single time multiplication. Multiply by 5. 5. Okay. That's what happens. Okay. We need to make it so that the texture itself is repeating. Flags. Where do we do that? Actually, I think texture 2D array. I think texture 2D array. It takes an array. If I remember correctly, there was a special type of texture node specifically for repeating texture. Texture 2D parameter. Oh, that might be it. But yeah, okay. Repeat enabled. We feed that here. So in that case, we don't actually set the texture here. We got to set it in the parameter. Interesting. It's a little weird that we can't really do that here. So let's do sampler port. This should appear now in the shader parameters. Yep. And then in the shader parameters, this is where we load the texture. Voronoi 1. Drop that here. Type data, filter, doesn't matter. Source, doesn't matter. Technically, yeah, that's it. And I think previews don't work with sampler ports. Okay, now, I believe that we need to increase, to multiply this value. We're going to treat it as a float. We're going to multiply it by 10. And after it's multiplied by 10, then it becomes the y-axis. Oh, okay. Right. We have to keep in mind that this whole plane is actually rotated by 90 degrees. So I think this has to be x-axis. No. No. No, it's not. Is it? Yeah, that doesn't seem right. Z-axis? Huh. Curious. Call is disabled. Let me fix the UVs for a sec. As a matter of fact, hold on a second. Let's go back to the fragment shader. And let's take this. I'm going to do sampler port, which is done through texture 2D parameter. Texture 2D, oh, texture parameter triplanar. That might be it. This might be what allows it to replicate itself. But let's just try this for now. Call it test. Repeat as true. Texture 2D. And then this goes to the albedo, which means, copy this here. That's what it looks like. Okay, so now we're visualizing it. Let's take UV input. Let's multiply it. This has to be vector 2 multiplication. 2 by 2. Output goes to the UVs. Ah, it does double. It does actually double. Interesting. Okay, well, if it doubles, then it should technically work. I'm going to leave this here for now because it allows us to actually see what's happening. Let's go 2 by 2. I do see an offset, but I think this offset is on the wrong axis. We should see it go up and down. Okay, and I don't see it go up and down any which way. Oh, now it goes up and down. It doesn't really render from this direction, curiously enough. And also, it doesn't really render from the bottom. Do we have to tell it to be additive? Huh. That's pretty cool. But we can't really distort it when it's transparent like that, so I don't think we can use this. Okay. Let's keep going. So if I do this by 100, yep, that does create a significant effect. Okay, there we go. And you know what? Here's what I think we can do. We're going to go to the fragment shader right now. We're going to disconnect this stuff so we verified that works. We're going to take two colors, darker blue and a lighter blue. We're going to mix them. RGB is what we want. And now the value, let's see. So if this is 0, 0, 0, it will be the top value. And if it's 1, 1, 1, I sure wish it would just wait for me to type in all the values. There we go. If it's 1, 1, 1, then it's the B value. What if we use the height of the vertice, the Y position of the vertice, to drive the color between this color and this color? So, take the vertex. We're going to decompose. So break it apart into 3 individual values. Take the Y value, use it here. Okay. Now, we know that our vertices actually get multiplied by 20. So I think we need to divide by 20. I mean, technically, yeah, except not really. What's happening here? Oh, right. Is it y-axis? Hold on a sec. It's the z-axis. Because we're sideways. That doesn't quite look like it's working. It looks like it's based off of camera. Let's try offsetting this value. Let's do float parameter or float constant. Okay. Yeah, it seems to be based on camera. That's not really good. Add UV2, flip faces, UV padding, center offset. I'd imagine that its UVs are automatically assigned. Do want the vertex value. What do we do here? Take the vertex. We use the black and white texture. If it's a black and white texture, black is 0, white is 1. Multiply by 20, so 0 to 20. That becomes the Z component. Right. So here, take the vertex data. decompose it. Divide by 20. And then use that as the weight. Oh man, it would be great if we could actually see the numbers, but unfortunately we just have to guesstimate. It's not on global space, is it? No. These are local vertices. See, the fact that when we're flying away, it changes its color means that it doesn't seem to be based in local coordinates. Now, technically, we could say, sure, don't use the vertex data. Let's use the texture. Texture 2D parameter, just like what we did before. Source is going to be, no, repeat is going to be true. This is going to be fed into the sampler port texture, and then UV data, we're going to multiply, which is vector 2, by 2. That's going to be fed in here. The resulting color will be driving the color change. Lovely. All right, it makes sense if we actually take the time to populate the shader, which should really be the same texture. There we go. The only difference is that it's supposed to be reverse. Like this. That's the idea. Okay, now we need to add multiple Voronoi textures together. Because we want to create a compound texture. Okay, I guess we can try this. So take the UV data. We're going to be multiplying it anyways. Voronoi 2. We need to multiply. I think we have to multiply these two together. Okay. Okay, there's subtraction. There's addition. And there's multiplication. Okay. We got to keep in mind our player is going to be tiny. So we might want to go by 10. Ah, fascinating. Okay. We got graphical glitches, depth draw. No, that does exactly nothing. Does not help us at all. There we go. Gonna disconnect the alpha. Okay. Let's get some motion in here. So we need to add. There we go. We're going to be adding UV data. Pass it here. And this is going to be time. We're going to add time as one of the values. And that's really strong. So we got to multiply. Okay. So let's do 10%. Okay, let's go slower. Mm-hmm. Now I gotta say, I think this is gonna start getting more and more complex to the point where we may or may not want to consider doing this in code. Okay, well, anyways. Anyway, vertex color. Is vertex color available to us here? Frag color. Not really. I mean, that would have been, well, we have a color input. I don't think that's vertex color though. That would be absolutely fantastic if we could do that. Okay, that's fine. Let's get back here. Maybe 10 is a bit much. Actually, that's the speed. When I'm saying 10, I'm talking about this UV division. Okay, now that only affects our vertices. That doesn't affect the color. And see, the problem is that if we want to do the same exact thing, oh, we can copy it. Hell yeah. Okay, we can copy the whole thing. Not the best, but beats the rest. Cellular, modular, interactive, What do we do here? This is already multiplied. So we don't need any of this stuff. We do need to feed the color here. Lovely. It would be lovely if we make sure that we populate it. Let's make sure the names still have the number 1 and 2. We're just going to put a prefix of F for fragment. The sub does not contain any carbon fiber. Maybe. It'll contain plenty of lead. There we go. Not bad. So you can see when the wave goes high, it causes the color to become brighter. When it goes low, it goes darker. Cool. Now it's very jittery. And I think that's because we might have compression. Let's see. Mode. Uncompressed. Hey, look at that. That's much better. Okay, well, that's two Voronoi textures blended together. What if we do a third one? Okay, but this one, we're going to... Let's make it larger. Okay. It's kind of hard to see. Connecting the output from this vector. Here we go. Okay. All right, that's the third one. Now the third one's not going to be scaled quite as much. As a matter of fact, maybe we don't multiply. Maybe we add. Yes. And I think we also do want to offset it. We're going to feed the time here. The speed. I think we can increase this speed to 2. And this speed's going to stay as 1. Oh boy. Right, we're not supposed to feed it directly. We're supposed to take the original UVs, add this offset, and the output goes into the texture. Okay. Now it's a little bit jittery. Oh, that's weird. There we go. Now all textures are sharing the same properties. Import settings. Okay, well that's looking good. Or as good as we can manage the time being. Let's try more subdivisions. And that kind of works. Again, it would be better if we could handle this with voxels, but we haven't really learned that kind of advanced shenanigans. I'm going to copy this entire thing. Fragment. I'm going to paste it in here. And the output goes into driving the blend. All right, and then we just have to update the names of the textures. So this is F Voronoi 1. Would be nice if we could just reuse them. Jeez. Well, it's picking up on the textures that used to be there. Okay. There we go. All right. So, those are the waves. To be honest, seems to work pretty well. It's a fairly cheap effect. Except it's getting really complex now with all these nodes, and we're not even done yet. So we're still supposed to be seeing stuff underneath the water. So we should be blending the waves with this. Except we need to be doing this in maybe some sort of a darker multiplication mode. Let's try this. Take this, multiply by this. That becomes the albedo. Let's just see what these algorithms produce. Power. Kool-Aid Ocean. Ugh. Okay. Interesting. Well, all right. What else do we want to do? We want to offset the UVs that we are looking at it here. And I think we need to do screen UVs for this. Let's see. Yep, that seems to be correct. And now that we have screen UVs, we can add, this would be vector 2. And let's just see what happens when we add this texture. And then that's going to be the fed UVs into the object. Whew, okay. I mean, sort of. Let's multiply. Oh. Just going to copy that node, paste it here. Let's make sure it's a vector 2. Multiply, 0.2, 0.2, and then feed that in there. Okay, this is not liquid gallium. Reduce, reduce. Sort of. Let's go lower. Wait, this just adds. We want to multiply. Okay, well now we gotta dial it back. Okay, that's working. Let's go further. So that works. It's definitely distorting everything that's underneath. But we have lost our color, so maybe we can't do it this way. Maybe we do have to blend using one of these modes. Let's see, does the order in which we supply the textures matter? Doesn't look like it. That kind of works, except it flips the color underneath. This sort of works. And this works when we're underneath or above, by the looks of it. Very turbulent. Hmm. Let's add a direct light. Okay. Make it shine down. As soon as we do that, there should be a sun somewhere over here. But I think we can't see it because of the... Oh. There we go. Because of the fog. Yeah, there it is. Sky mode. Light only. Sky only. Light and sky. Fascinating. Okay. Now, the sun shape should, in this case, be controlled somewhere in the sky, I believe. Ground color? Oh boy. Sun disk scale. Okay, that seems to be doing... Ah. Sets the thickness of the atmosphere. What is it? Turbidity? Creates a foggy looking atmosphere, while low turbidity results in a clear atmosphere. Uh-huh. Okay, now that's physical, yeah, physical sky. What if we do procedural sky? Procedural sky tends to have a lot more features. But it's not really compatible with like day and night cycle type stuff. Whoa. Interesting. Okay. I think that is, unfortunately, the water shader running out of screen data to read as we're distorting it. Oh, okay. All right. That may not be so good. Dodge? No. There we go. Thing is, this looks like ass. Okay. Hard light. You know, maybe we actually want to do another mix. And we're mixing, let's see, the lower value goes into A. That's 0. So we're going to put this into A. The higher value is 1. That's B. Okay. And then the output goes into albedo. Okay. And the goal is to make the higher parts not be as not be as revealing of what's underneath the water. It's still very strong though. What if we multiply the data of our view by itself and then supply it here? Okay, it definitely gets it darker. Is this like Subnautica? Yes. Yes, it is. Okay, that's cool. I think maybe this blend mode we gotta control it. Let's add. What are we adding? Vector 3. Oh, this is controlling the weight, so this might as well just be a float. Adding a float. this float is going to be a constant. And then that is going to be used as the weight. And I'm thinking we can do this. 1.9. Okay. 0.8. 0.5. Okay, there we go. So this allows us to control how much we can see underneath. 0.3. Nope, let's go 0.4. Nice. Now, something else. I would perhaps like to make it so that the tops of the waves revealed some kind of a foam. So let's do, I guess we're gonna have to do another sampler port. Let's try texture parameter triplanar. Okay. It's right. It's a parameter, so we still need to supply the data. Let's use, what are we gonna use? I suppose we can just use one of the Voronoi textures, noises. Pop it to texture 2D. And then we're just going to do a mix. We are just going to feed the same value. Feed it here. And now, what is this? This is a foam. There we go. Let's just use the first texture here. Nice. Now, what do we want to do? Let me try feeding the weight of 0. No, 0 means the original. So 111 means, yeah. So we're just seeing the Voronoi texture. We just supplied it. That's cool. We can set the position and the weights. I'm not sure what the weights are. Let's get a vector 3 parameter, constant. Dang it. Okay, set the weights. I think the weights is the blending between triplanar and non-triplanar, isn't it? Nope. Sort of. All right, I think we're gonna have to use the regular texture. Texture 2D parameter. Repeat, yes. Sampler goes here. And this is foam. Okay, so that connects the texture right back. That's good. And then let's take UVs. We're gonna multiply vector 2. And it's gonna be, oh no, that's double multiply. We don't need that. Just need single multiply. Let's do 100 by 100. Supply that as UVs. Okay, so that multiplies it like that. Let's see what happens when I apply it here. Oh, well. We've created the cougar waters. This is where single moms are trying to score with young, aspiring, and clueless to the dangers ahead adults. Interesting. Yeah, we probably don't want to blend. I mean, technically, it could work, but it just doesn't disappear fast enough. Hmm. Let's see. If we add 0.5, that makes it be on top. 1. That really blows it out of proportion. Hmm. What are we trying to do here? We're trying to make it reveal only on the tips. Hmm. I think we have to add. But if we do it like this, it adds a bit too much. Let's see. So if we do, let me just duplicate this here. Okay. So if we do 0, it fully shows only the waves. If we do 1, it fully shows only this stuff. Okay. Now we know that the output of this, oh, that might be a problem. The output of this is an addition. Okay, let me double check this. Maybe instead of adding, we are, after all, going to be multiplying. Because then we maintain this value between all of these Voronoi textures as a value between 0 and 1. Black is 0, white is 1. Multiply, multiply, they still cannot surpass maximum value of 1. And then multiply again, same concept. Okay, now we go here. What have we done here? Well, here we've added a little bit of a value, which helps us push it further. Okay. Okay, if I set it to 1, then we basically have clipped the value to the max. And then if we push it past, which is interesting that we can do that, it seems to just start clipping mathematically the colors. Okay, so we do 0.6, 0.7. This is kind of what we're looking for. Okay, but the issue is that we have a value from black to white, which is from 0 to 1. And what we need to do is push blacks to become blacker, whites to become whiter, thus crushing the value. Okay. I don't know if this is gonna work out very well, but let me check. Let me check if ChatGPT can hint me what sort of mathematical operation we want to perform here, because I have no idea. This is math. Let's see. I have a gradient texture where black is gradient texture in the shader, black is 0 and white is 1. I need to push the colors so black becomes blacker and white becomes whiter. I have no idea if it's going to interpret it right. Oh god. So we're talking about contrast. Okay. Fragment color. That's the texture, and that's the contrast. So what do we do with contrast? Contrast times 0.5 controls how much contrast to apply. And then we subtract half, multiply by adjustments which we had multiplied by 0.5. So we get half the value of that, and then we add 0.5. Huh. Interesting. Well, if I were to feed this directly in here, yeah, okay. So this thing is almost entirely losing its color. There we go. That's what the original texture looks like. Okay. Could we... what if we do some sort of an operation with itself? If we add... Don't want to subtract. Multiply. Just gets darker. Remainder. Max. But that just chooses between the two, which one's the larger. Okay. So contrast is a value. We multiply by 0.5. That becomes adjustment. So let's do this. Multiply 0.5. Okay. Then we take the color data, subtract 0.5 from it, multiply by adjustment, add 0.5. So we take this, subtract 0.5, multiply by the adjustment, and then add 0.5. And that gets fed in here. Well, okay. 2.5. I mean, that's technically doing what we want. 2. 2.2. That is pushing the contrast. And I think that this value, we can control how high. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Instead of float constant, which is annoying to edit, we're going to do float parameter, which does not require us to recompile the shader. That's where the jitteriness comes from. Okay, so this is going to be, what is it called? Contrast position. And the default value is 0.5. Okay. So we should be able to find this value here. And we should be able to adjust it. Okay. And now, contrast is going to be here. Set it to 1. Delete this value. Connect this here. And now if we adjust the contrast, nice. And then we can set the position where the contrast is being adjusted. And there we go. That right there is technically what we want to see. Dear God. This is giving me Unreal Engine blueprints. Nightmare. Let's push this down. We might actually want to redo this as a coded shader, to be honest. Oh well. Gotta suffer through it at least once. Okay. So what do we do here? Let's see. Where does this take us? This takes us to hell, apparently. The weight has changed. Okay. Why are you red? Okay, let me see if I push this in. What do we get? Huh. Interesting. Not quite what I want. At least we're not really supposed to be using that there. We're supposed to be using that here. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. The contrast. There you go. That's what we technically want, but if we push it too far, it goes haywire on us. But that's technically what I wanted. Only the height pieces are the ones that are getting this effect. So maybe we blend the water and maybe we shouldn't be using the mix shader for this. Let me double check this. So here's what we got. Let's just do the water first. So that's the water. Okay. What if we take the water? We're going to add vector 3 value. Add the foam. Okay. Now that's universal. What if we do... Ooh, that looks nice. Multiply. Right. If we do multiply, then black of the foam ends up darkening the whole water. We don't want to do that. That looks cool. Divide. Oh, black is 0. So if we divide by 0, I'm surprised the shader hasn't gone belly up, or my graphics card hasn't exploded. That's interesting. Power. Okay. All right, let's keep it simple. So what if we try this? A blending mode. And the problem is the screen still darkens it, so I think I need to do like overlay or lighten. Really? I don't want the black bits. If I don't want the black bits, then I think I need to do a mathematical operation. Addition specifically. We're going to add the color of the foam. There we go. Now, we need to make the foam only be present at the tips. Oh, you know what? That's actually not black. That is our water blue color. It just appears black because of the immense contrast. Okay, so technically, if I were to take this color, multiply, so this is a color value, so multiply vector 3, and then I use this contrast. There we go. Technically that works. I want to convert black into an alpha channel transparent. I can't use transparency here because transparency ends up very weirdly rendering when you look at it from bottom up, or it gets like clipped by the sky. So that's why we can't really use transparency. We have to do stuff like take the data from the screen and then distort it, and that would look like the water is transparent. Which, speaking of which, that's our next step. So we have our color. We don't want to feed that here. We want to feed this. Okay, and now if it's set to 1, we see the B value. If it's set to 0, we see the A value, which is what's under or beyond the node. Okay. So we need to now blend this. Can I just do this? Sort of. Sort of. I think we might want to add one. Okay. 0.7. Spaghetti coating. Oh, don't even get me started. Visual shaders is pretty much the only time or place where I can even remotely conceive of doing this. But we're starting to stretch the limits of what can be logically traced. Okay. But yeah, that's right. This seems to be in local space. That's not really useful. Okay, can I do vertex here? I think in order for us to be able to do this, we should have gone for a sampler port triplanar. Are these precompiled modules? Right now they're compiled when the program runs, but you can set them to be precompiled and shipped with your executable. It's a recent addition to Godot Engine, where you can do precompiled shaders. I think the release of Callisto Protocol and the yet another shitstorm of chuggy graphics had prompted the Godot developers to consider that feature. Because everybody by this point knows that precompiled shaders is how you avoid stutters during the shaded compilation. So, yeah, it's fresh off the boat. Okay, now this is a K, but it's only okay And the biggest problem is that we can't really make it follow the player. We can't make it follow the player. And that was the whole idea of making it this large. Okay. So it's fine. We got this experiment done. What I'm gonna try to do, however, is make the same thing, but using a coded shader, because I don't think we can go any further comfortably. Far side G shader. Oh, okay. I gotta be. I think it just destroyed the visual shader version. Can I save this? Nope. I don't think I can. Oh, water surface. Oh, right. This is called far side shader. Okay. Never mind. Let's call this far side. Let's call this water surface code. It's still called far side here. Quick load. This is the visual one. This is the code one. Okay. Cool. So let's start with the what? Fragment shader. We need the Voronoi textures. Okay, how do we do this? Sampler 2D. Sampler 2D texture. Or it's texture sampler 2D. See, this is where we get into gray territory. Constant. Parameter. Or const. Invalid constant. Samplers are not allowed. Expected constant, function, uniform, or varying. Well, technically it would be uniform. Expected data type. And then expected data type. I gave you a data. Oh. Sampler 2D. It's one or the other. Oh. Hey, hold on. Is that it? It is it. I got it. Okay. If there's a wave that crashes with foam, it has a curvature singularity. That is way beyond of what I couldn't understand, man. Absolutely beyond. Okay. So let's start with this. Fragment, we need to export the color. You know what? I'm not going to waste my own time and anyone else's time. Godot fragment shader. Okay, I think color should be okay between 2D and 3D. Color. All right. Uniform. Color. I think there's got to be a color constant, isn't there? Texture, uniform float. Vertex. Okay. Think about a wave with foam. It usually has a peak or cusp, not smooth like choppy. Not smooth but choppy. Okay, it has a peak. I think I would need to look at it visually to understand what you're talking about. Okay. Spatial. Okay, oh, look at that. They're making wave too. Uniform sampler 2D noise. Okay, but I want just the color. Unshaded. Okay, here they're making the color baked into the shader. Ooh, specular tune. I want to do that. Aha. Yeah, we haven't done that. Set the roughness and metallic values. Albedo. Constant cannot be modified. Color's a constant? Well, hold on a second. Oh, albedo is the output. Right. Cool. Except, you know, I don't want to control color this way. That's visual shaders. Okay, I need to take a look at the shader code. Shading language. Color. Oh, varying vector 3 sum color. No, okay, that's if we want to expose it as a parameter, it's got to be uniform. And I think that's a slightly deceptive name there. Varying flat. I mean, the corner at the peak of the wave, it happens near the beach due to depth. I hate to disappoint you, man. I have no idea what you're talking about. Right? We're talking about a very visual component. I have to see it to understand what it is. I'm a very visual learner. I apologize. Plus, it's late. Set shader parameter. Oh, vector 4. Other color source. Used as color. Yeah, well, that's great. Hey, Vishal. Good day. Vector 3. When color vector 3 color GDescript type. Some color, source color. Uniforms can be assigned default values. That's cool. Oh. Global shader values. Global uniform. Uniform vector 4. Well, that's just... Oh, hold on a second. Is that going to make it show up as a color? No. It's going to make it go belly up. No, it's going to be X, Y, Z, and weight. Man, there's got to be... Hold on. Let's just look this up. Godot. Shader color uniform. Hint color with vector 3. That's from 2022. Milestone 4.0. So is that a thing? Vector 3. No. Unless... Did I copy this right? Uniform vector 3. Yes. Maybe the syntax is a bit different. Close this as completed. Yes. Yes. Hint underscore color. And it's supposed to show up as red. Uniform vector 3 colon hint underscore color semicolon. What the shit? I'm doing it. Valid type hint after colon. Am I stupid? Or hold on a second. The foam in the wave usually happens as it's breaking, which is when there's a sharp corner forming at the peak. Ah, okay. I think that might be a lot further into vertex offsets, because right now we're just moving the wave up and down. So that part is easy because you just offset the wave vertice on the y-axis. But once we start talking about like waves breaking, and that's when foam starts forming, that's a lot more complex geometry. Was it reverted before? God, never mind. Okay, what does this guy say? Hint albedo. Approved changes PR meeting. Hint black. Hint white. Default black. Source color. Is that the hint? Oh. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. We got it. Oh, we got it. Okay. Wave top is what we're going to call it. And then wave bottom. We're going to call this. Cool. That is the top of the wave. That is the bottom of the wave. Cool. All right. Let's first say albedo is going to be equals to top for now. Okay. What we need to do, we need to take the Voronoi texture, and in the vertex shader, we need to offset the vertices. So, vertex equals, we need to create, okay. Let's first see if we can display the texture as a starting point. Okay. We gotta go up. Texture, noise, position. That's the texture, that's the UVs. Let me double check this. albedo, texture, and then we're just gonna feed the UV into it. And then the noise is replaced by the texture uniform. Equals vector 3 or vector 4. And that's okay. Let's go further back. Texture, normal map. Interesting. Texture position, XYZ. That's fragment shaded. That's the normal map only. Okay, I guess we were specifically looking at normal map for displacement. That is okay. Slow and steady wins the race. Let's back up. Let's see the place where we mess around with albedo. Fragment color. Texture, texture UV. That makes sense. But it's only for color. Consts cannot be modified. Well, what the shit is this? We are doing exactly what you tell us not to do. Interesting. You get the curvature of the wave. Infinite curvature means the wave is about to break. This is the level of calculus I couldn't even dream of working with. Color equals, and this is a vector 4 value. Fragment shader, texture, texture, UV. Oh, texture is a built-in type. If we're applying this to the sprite, and the sprite has a texture set to it, this is how we would get the texture. So that's not quite what we want. Got it, okay. Okay, let's go through this. This is how we extract the height data. Height scale. Okay, albedo. But that's a flat color. It only wants a vector 3. So RGB. And then albedo. Ha! Look at that. Perfect. So, that's cool. We can multiply this by 2. No, it doesn't like integers. Gotta do floats. Actually, hey, okay. It knows what I want. 6. There we go. Okay. Well, that works. So let's take this now here. God, I wish we would be able to just set up one compound texture and just reuse it from vertex to fragment. maybe we might be able to if we define some sort of a varying value above and then store the value from the vertex shader to be used in fragment shader. That way any changes to the blended textures we make in the vertex one would work in the fragment one. Okay, we'll have to see if that works. Vertex, we are gonna take vertex on the y-axis, which actually has to be z-axis because we had to rotate the plane by 90 degrees. And it's going to be vertex on the z plus, we're just going to use the red channel from the texture. Okay, now let's multiply that by 5. 5.0. It's got to be a float. There we go. We're starting to get waves. Nice. Okay, so let's start by doing this. Float. Let's actually try this. So we're gonna do float z wave z wave height. Like this. We do this. Wave height equals this calculation. This has to be varying. Expected something. Semicolon or bracket. Can I not supply the value with it? Oh, well, I guess there we go. Perfect. Now, can we use this here? Let's see. Vector 3. Now let's do wave height, wave height, wave height. Oh, we can. We can use that. Oh, that is perfect. That is just perfect. So first of all, we're not going to be multiplying it by 5. Oh, that makes it so much better. So maybe I'm just an idiot and I couldn't figure out how to do it, but with the visual shader, I had to have separate copies of the visual shading routine in order to be able to reuse the same algorithm in the vertex shader and the fragment shader. If we do coded shader, then yeah, we could just have one variable and it's just used by both vertex and fragment shader. Man, that's awesome. Okay, so that's cool. What do we want to do here? We want to make the texture scroll. So we do plus time. It's actually marvelous that it doesn't require me to convert this to a vector 2 value. We are going to multiply by 0.2. Okay, that's good. That's good. All right, now let's add. This is going to be Voronoi 2. This will not be moving with time. And I think that should pick up the texture right away. Nice. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. Okay. Let's keep in mind the fact that the player is this big. We need to make it double-sided. Shader type spatial. There's parameters that we can supply. Render mode. I guess we can just copy this. And then there's a keyword for call disabled. So that's going to make it visible from both sides. Beautiful. Okay, and maybe unshaded. I don't know if that's such a good idea, because I think if we do that, it's not affected by fog. Oh, it is affected by fog. Okay. That is very helpful. Okay, perfect. Now, we know that there's a third Voronoi texture. And this is going to be a larger one. And it actually does also move, so we're gonna do this. This is Voronoi 3. And this one moves fairly slowly. And we don't actually multiply the UVs by that much. Beautiful. Okay, now here's the problem. We have added all these values together. So that means that technically at the place where all three textures are white, we have a value of 3. So we need to multiply okay, so that's the compound value between all three, and then we can multiply it here to increase the offset in the vertex space. Again, I think that's relatively okay. Nice. Okay, beautiful. Now, what do we want to do with this now? Let's make a variable here. What is it? Float. I don't know if we have to set it to varying here as well. Float contrast mask, and it's going to be this value. Cool. Okay, so we don't have to set it to varying. It's a temporary variable, local variable. That's fine. What did we have to do to make the contrasting work? So multiply by 0.5, 0.5, and then we took whatever it is that we needed to contrast. Right. This isn't actually what we multiply by 0.5. Let's do uniform float mask or contrast. Can we do this? Or do we have to... Oh, yeah, I think we can do that. Okay, and then contrast. Cool. So that should appear as a property now. Preferably if we look at the proper place. Okay, contrast. Good. So we take contrast times 0.5. The final value, which is our wave height, we are going to subtract 0.5. That has to take place first. And then multiply by adjustment. And then at the end, we add 0.5. And then I'm going to, whoops, not do that. There we go. I'm going to make the albedo display this texture, or display this color value. Found parentheses. Ah, right. Sneaky. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now we also want to have the ability to raise it and lower it. So let's make contrast height. Oh, don't want caps. There we go. And then I think we can just add this value here. No, that just seems to act just like contrast. Hmm. Let's try this. I mean, hypothetically, just adding a number should work. And yet it doesn't. Contrast simply increases. Oh. Actually, maybe it does work. And I think contrast of 1.0 is the default value. So if we do this, we can adjust the height of it. Nice. All right. Progress. What do we do next? Next, we need to display whatever's underneath the water on the water. Okay. What do we have? Sampler. Screen. Let's see here. Let's see. Godot, screen in shader. Screen reading shaders. Screen texture, hint screen texture, repeat disable filter nearest. Dang. That's a lot. Okay. Why does it have to be uniform though? Okay, screen texture. So we're going to do albedo, screen texture. Doesn't like it because RGB. Oh, interesting. Right. We're not supposed to be using regular UVs. We're supposed to be using screen UVs. Oh, there we go. Nice. So that reveals, that just simply projects whatever the camera is looking at onto the texture at the same angle. Cool. All right. Now let's go back here for a sec. We have two colors. Do we have a mix? We have a mix property. That is perfect. And it looks like that mix property can work with vector 2s, 3s, or floats, or even 4s. That is awesome. Because we have wave top. We're going to mix wave top, wave bottom color. And the amount is going to be the contrasted mask. Okay, so this is going to be vector 3, wave color, and then we're going to simply use this here to test. It's technically working, except it's supposed to be in reverse. Nice. Beautiful. We can adjust the contrast between the two. Okay, beautiful. And then what we need to do now is make the bottom of the screen anything beneath the waves be revealed in the darker parts. For that, I think I might want to make a second contrast mask. Let's do contrast 2, contrast H2. And then we're going to do vector 3, wave color, mix between wave color, so itself, and then what? And then the color of the screen, which we have here. So vector 3 screen data. So we'll store the RGB value. That should be a vector 3 value. Blend with that using the second mask. Redefinition of wave color. Oh, really? Can we just do this? Nice. Ooh. Oh, that seems to be working. Let's rename contrast. So this is see-through transparency contrast. Reveal contrast H. Reveal contrast H. Wait, no. Excuse me. Reveal contrast. And then reveal contrast H. So that here we do this. Unknown identifier, reveal contrast H2. Not a thing. Okay. So okay, that's a little finicky. Oh, maybe that's why. We need the screen data to be first and the wave color to be last. That way, when we bring it in, the wave color is right there. Increase the contrast. Oh, what the heck? That's a little weird. That's weird. Huh. No, you know what? That might be part of the shader shenanigans. There we go. Depth draw always. All right, let's visualize this mask a little bit. That's what we're looking at. Huh. See, it would be nice if I could push this. Actually, I think I can. Hold on a second. It might not look great, but what if I round? And then we do this. It's definitely not going to look great. But now, bring that out. Bring this in. Oh, hold on a second. What's happening with this color here? Wave bottom, wave top, contrast mask. This needs to be clamped, I think. Okay. Yeah, that's gonna give that we're gonna lose a whole bunch of resolution here. Technically, we should be clamping it, but in a way that works and doesn't break everything. Let's take a look at what this looks like. Oh, this mask looks like nothing. Interesting. So what happened there? Wave height, which is a multiplication of the 3 red values. Let's take a look at that first. That is correct. Okay, so okay, there's the contrast. I guess this is as best as we can get it. What if we do like this? Huh. I mean, sure. That makes sense. And what if we bring this now? And we're actually just going to use the same mask. Ah, okay. I see what's up. We need to overlay the blue color over what we see underneath, because once we go beneath water, it literally doesn't change. The water is supposed to tint everything, which, hypothetically speaking, would want to use a depth. Depth? Can we have access to depth? Let's take a look. Depth would be the calculation of how far everything is. Uh-huh. Depth. Oh, right. Depth is a float. Let's see here. Right. That is wild. What is depth? Depth texture. Hint depth texture. That is technically what we want. Okay, so let's do RGB. Yeah, not a whole lot of depth when it's a flat plane. Or actually, it just crashed. So we're supposed to, right. We're not idiots, and we're actually paying attention to what's happening on the screen. We're going to do depth texture. Okay. Which still seems to be the same. Texture LOD. For 3D shaders, so it's possible to access screen depth buffer. For this, hint depth texture. Hint is used. Texture is not linear. It must be converted using inverse projection matrix. Pixel position. Okay. I'm just yoink that little bit. And okay. Fascinating. Okay. Let's ignore that for the time being. We have the wave color. We need to do something about this screen texture. What if we... how do we do blend modes? We don't really have blend. Do we have blend? We don't have blend functions here. Let's multiply by wave color. Uh-huh. Interesting. Add. Subtract. Uh-huh. Okay. Screen data times equals screen data. So that's going to darken the whole thing. That darkens everything. Okay, that doesn't do a heck of a lot. What if we do something simple? Let's do a uniform. So uniform vector 3. Refraction tint. Source color. Okay, this is going to give us an RGB value. And then we can go here. Screen data. Where do we multiply it? Multiply by this. Okay, so if it's black, we don't see anything. If it's white, we see the whole thing. So now we can tint it and then darken it. Okay, now that's all fine and dandy. Whoa, that looks pretty cool. Oh, that looks awesome. This gave me a whole idea for an entire location. Kind of reminds me of that video where the camera showed how a nuclear reactor under the water turns on, and the water causes um, the particles to slow down to the point where they actually end up exciting the nearby molecules to vibrate at a visible frequency. The energy gets dropped. So this is really cool. All right, let's keep this the way it is, because we still need to do... we don't need these two values, right? No, not by the looks of it. We still need to make the displacement, right? Don't need this. This is screen data, so UV times, we can wave color, contrast mask, wave height. There we go. That's screen UV. Okay, and I think it's just too strong. That allows us to see it. And then if we multiply 0.01, it should just shift. No, it just disappears. Is this one of those cases where I can't get away with not using a vector 2? Multiply. Oh, we have to add. Right. Okay, I got it. I got it. I know the mistake. We have to add this value. There we go. So now we see a bit of shimmering. Okay, let's do uniform float, distortion, scale. Let's do 1.0 here. And then when we drop down here, 0.02 times distortion scale. So now I can adjust it like this. Now, don't display the screen data. There we go. And then refraction tint. Beautiful. Now, that is infinitely easier to look at than the shenanigans we had in the visual shader. So that's pretty cool. What else do we need? We need foam. We're definitely going to have to spend a lot more time on this. Oh yeah, that basically makes it completely non-existent. Which means we should probably dial down this refraction tint. Okay, let's try adjusting some values. So uniform float roughness. And then roughness is going to be this value. Specular 1.0. Let's just set the values directly. Metallic. Let's see this. Looks like we might have to add a normal map of some kind. Fast noise light can be set as a normal map. Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay, we'll keep it unshaded. And then we had some of these properties. Diffuse tune, which we still have. Specular tune. Albedo. Roughness. Right. Roughness has to be very small. Which doesn't really help us here. Metallic is 0. Roughness is 0.1. Huh. Well, that is not at all what the instruction looks like. Also, I think this is how we would have rotated it without having to rely on using the z-axis. Okay. It looks like all the parameters have to be set as static parameters up there. That's weird. Why does it not look the same as we have here? It should at least be reflecting the sun. And again, if it's unshaded, how can it do that? There you go. What did it say we can use for the normal? Render mode specular tune. Can't be both. Okay. Yeah. So if it's unshaded, it doesn't actually use the data. That does not interfere. It wants the normal. Oh. Okay. So that little piece should be distorting. Maybe we have to set these values before albedo. No, that doesn't seem like the case at all. Well, that did something. Can't say it's good. Animating time. I think it's got to be in the previous segment. Normal map. Yes. Now, what did we do for that normal? It looks like that's just that. What? Set the second uniform texture to another noise texture 2D with another fast noise light. Okay. Noise texture 2D. As normal map. Fast noise light. Interesting. Okay. That's cool. Damn water looking good. It's a struggle. We're still working on it. Okay. And then we're actually making use of the normal map here. Except texture position. Where's that coming from? Ah, it uses the vertex height value. And then this needs to be declared as vector 2. Unknown identifier expression normal map. That is up here. Normal. Uh-huh. Okay. Right. We are probably working at massively different scales than Godot, the tutorial. This needs to be seamless. In 3D space? Well, that kind of fixes it. Okay. God, that looks ugly. Oh, that's not at all what we want. Texture position. Maybe we gotta do UV plus texture position? No. I think we just don't want that at all. I think this has got to be based on the UVs. There we go. That's a bit more like it. We still have that cut going straight through the middle. Might want to add some minor dampening to the waves. Minor dampening to the waves. We have a little bit of jitter, but that's because we're using a texture. And it's just hopping between... Actually, no, I think that's just the distance between the vertices. Interesting. Hmm. Some of the peaks am I naturally high in the surroundings. That, yeah, that may very well be. Yeah, I can see what you mean. How big is this gonna be? Oh. Okay, interesting. We're falling. Why are we falling? I think our scale, gravity scale, is not quite correct. We need to propagate it to the player scene so that it's the same despite of which location we're in, which level. Right, gravity scale is 0. Okay. Now, I don't want it to be 0. Let's do maybe 0.1. Might even have to be smaller. Okay. There we go. I think when we breach the water, we're going to have to straighten out our swim vector. So we're always looking straight up. Because, you know, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And then once we dive under, that's when we'll give the player full control over their values. Okay, this isn't as horrible as I thought this was gonna work. Looks better in first person. Yeah, it kind of does. It kind of does. As a matter of fact, in first person, it seems like it might even be unnecessarily large. Okay, let's scale it down. Let's see. Whoa. Right. Okay. Let's give ourselves a uniform to control the height of the wave. All I did is just reduce the size of it. Since we can fly above water, or we should have the ability to do that with the vessels, we will have to figure out some sort of a way of blending infinite water with immediate water. Okay. Because infinite water is the one that you can see going to the horizon. Except technically, we're probably not going to have a full-on horizon. Let's give ourselves a uniform. Uniform wave height. Let's do wave scale. Actually, nah. Wave height it is. It's a uniform float. Redefinition of wave height. Dang it. Okay. I might have to do wave height scalar. Okay, and this is going to be actual wave height. And then this is going to be here. Okay, so we can do that. Yeah, okay. Bring that little bit under control. Dang it. Wrong scene. Okay, maybe if the waves don't go as high, it's not going to look as ridiculous. Nice calming water. All right. Okay, not bad. When we breach through the water, we're going to have a screen effect. Oh, screen effect. And then that screen effect will give us the opportunity to transition from, let's say, underwater fog, which would have to be quite a bit closer. And then maybe without so much sun scatter. Looks like the floor is way too rough or way too shiny. I don't believe that that's how we would usually see this underwater. Let's see. Dang it. Can't access the engine. Do we have roughness here? Albedo color. Roughness is baked into the map. There's no constant to adjust roughness. We'll have to paint over it. Paint wetness. Oh boy. Right. There should be a fill bucket. Looks like caustics will make a great effect. Yes, for sure. We're going to have to play around with these values as we go into further depths so that it's not a constant. Now this looks Subnautica-y. There we go. A little bit. Get some floating particles. Let's take a look at the, what is it? Salutation. Nope. Or is it just generic vessel? Base vessel TSCN. There is a particle here. Particle origin. GPU particles. Let's cut it out and place it into the player. Hello? Really? Okay, now we don't have it here. Copy. Paste. Thank you. Okay. Since we want the particles to be all over the place, they have to follow the player. So the spawner is going to be here. We probably do want to change the particle texture because it looks like what is this, the Dandruff planet? We're here to deliver the head and shoulders supply. Nice. You know, the interesting thing is that it's not as straightforward to swim as it is in Subnautica, because you can do barrel rolls. So that is something you can do, which means maintaining your up direction is actually something you have to do. Now, we could maybe make it into a gameplay mechanic. You can create a module that is going to straighten you up. Not bad, though. This is looking pretty good. Okay. Perfect. Cool. Well, why don't we wrap it up here? 2.5 hours, just a little bit over. That should be good. Not bad. We can start working on reefs and maybe setting up caustics, setting up some loot, getting some fish. Probably going to handle that with multi-mesh instances. You know, get the breaching from high to low. Actually, make in developing this entire space in the fog might be an interesting way to block off, to make it seem a lot more desolate, because you can see the horizon in Subnautica, which kind of tells you the lay of the land, and they had to get creative when it comes to hiding the surrounding landmarks. They had to create like a special blending shader that would cover up the islands and make it look like clouds until the player got close enough, and then the clouds would part and reveal the stuff. Now, one particular thing I'm not too fond of with the Godot's environment right now is that we can't have enough control with our fog to have fog, but still be able to reveal parts of the sky. Not unless we use, what, like the height fog? And then what? That's a procedural sky too. Hmm. Interesting. Okay, that should be it. We'll wrap it up here and then continue another time. Thanks, fellas. Appreciate the company.